Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I'm
Welcome.
glad we I'm glad we connected. So
I
far, so
know. Share this live video so they can watch too. Share.
good morning to everyone joining. Thank you for being here. Um,
So back.
so we're both in Central or Mountain Time, so that's like 10 a.m. Costa Rica time, 10 a.m. New Mexico time.
It's true.
I'm coming. This is my first Instagram live from San Jose, Costa Rica. The other ones I've done are from Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
so this is kind of a new experience.
this is good. I'm so happy we're not in LA where it's like 110 degrees. So sorry, everybody. That's part of why I left. September in
Yeah,
LA was just like too much for me. So
yeah.
there's the
Okay.
sun. Here, that's better. But I'm so happy to be here with you. It's a beautiful day here. I mean, when is it not? But it is currently a beautiful day here. Let me show
I'm
you.
glad
Sorry, it's like,
people joining. Just so before we get started, let people know where we are in the United States.
yeah, so we are outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. I live about 20 minutes south of Santa Fe towards a place called Lamy. As you can see, there's not a lot going on. Um, but this is sort of classic northern New Mexico, and this is why we are here, for nothing, for sky and space and quiet, sort of birds and coyotes, and that's sort of about it. So if you look on the map, Santa Fe is sort of down, well, it's northern New Mexico, but it's sort of down at the end of where the Rocky Mountains end. So I'm going to put my coffee down so I can flip around and show you.
Thank you.
So if you look that direction, those are the Sandia Mountains, and Albuquerque's about 60 miles that way.
Okay.
Santa Fe's about, trying to point, 15 miles that way.
Okay.
This is the Galisteo Basin that we're looking out at down there, which is wonderful and empty and has a long history and legacy of artists living down
Fantastic.
there. Lucy Lepard lives there. Bruce Nauman lives
Oh,
there. So I
okay.
feel like I'm surrounded by, I'm surrounded by like amazingness.
Yes, it looks like you're surrounded by nature energy and art
Yeah,
energy.
yeah, and it's unusual right now. Well, it's not unusual, but so there are very few clouds in the sky right now. Within a few hours, this will be most likely thunderheads and big sort of monsoony sorts of storms. This is only my first year in Santa Fe, so I'm not quite sure how long the monsoons last. They started in probably July. We had a pretty good season, and it's just these big storms that roll through in the afternoon, but it could look like this in the morning, and then by noon, it'll be like treacherous and amazing.
It's
Which of course I love,
it,
so.
yeah, it's different from LA, and I want to say that a couple, Isak Loria joined us. He's a painter who lives on the Pacific side of Costa Rica, and he's the reason I started doing these Instagram lives
Oh,
because
amazing.
he has a studio in kind of a really interesting, lush environment that's just really unique. So he
Hmm.
was the reason kind of I started doing this, and then I think it's evolving into something where we look at studios that are in places that people may not get a chance to visit, that are outside of a city, um, and that are a little harder to access. So you're, to my understanding, on like 5 acres of private property, right? So there's not a lot around you.
No, deliberately. So we're about a mile and a half in from the highway, and all of the properties on this road they start at 5 acres and then they go up. So, I mean, we do have neighbors. I don't know if you can see, there's a horse barn right there. There's a neighbor right there. Um, there's another house up there. So we do have neighbors. They're all wonderful. They're super interesting people. I find that Santa Fe, we've met the most interesting people
Right.
here. Um, there is one of our neighbors does like excavation and archaeology on shipwrecks. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really interesting mix of people. So we're super grateful to be here. I mean, people deliberately come here. It's interesting. Most people, I mean, they're families that have been here for hundreds or thousands of years. And there are also people that have deliberately come here and deliberately sort of like, we have left behind maybe another way of life for
Right.
this.
Yeah.
So
We'll talk about that a little bit. Linda Faye Braun said, I miss living in Santa Fe very much. Moved away 4 years ago. Being there just gets the creative juices flowing. It's mysterious.
oh, Linda, I love that. I think that there's something really to that. I was telling Hannah yesterday about how, so we moved to Santa Fe from Los Angeles one year ago in July. So we're very new here. And it took me 6 months just to like decompress and just like be with the sky and sort of be here with it. But it's, yeah, there is something special and I can't quite put my finger on it, but maybe that's the mystery. Maybe that's what's amazing about it.
I know. Maybe walk us around and show us your studio from a
Yeah.
distance. We can get a sense of where it's placed and what kind of light you're getting. I posted a beautiful picture of it on Instagram at sunset, I believe, that just looks
Oh,
glorious with one of the
cool.
golden sunsets.
Oh, Diana just said there's so much mystery. It's true. Los Alamos too. It's eerie. Okay, so Los Alamos is another thing, and agreed. It's super weird up there, kind of in a weird way that I find really interesting. But I agree. Okay, so here is where we're situated for those that just joined us. There is not a lot happening besides a fence that keeps the coyotes out and the dog in. Um,
Hi, Javier. I miss you.
So the studio, so we built the house. We looked for something to buy and like remodel when we decided to leave LA, but we really couldn't find anything. And then we found this piece of property and just fell in love with it. So, so this is the studio. It's separate. In LA, as Hannah, as you know, I had a studio in a garage, which is very LA. We had like a
Mhm.
1920s bungalow that had this like tiny 1920s garage attached to it, and that we converted into a studio. I sort of did the math when I finished grad school, and it was like, okay, so I can either, I'm gonna have to put the coffee down because I just can't hold it and turn the phone around. So I did the math, and it was like, okay, I can either pay like $1,000 a month or whatever it was for a studio, or I can put that money sort of upfront into this investment of converting this garage. And so I figured in about a year it would have paid off. And so, yeah, it was a lot of, sort of an upfront investment, but then the studio is mine. I also love, for me, the way that I work, I love that the studio is close to the house, but not too close and yet not a drive away. Like the drive away just doesn't work for me very well.
Because is it important for you to have that separation of like work time and private?
Absolutely. Yeah, the church and state need to be separated in my work. So there, we sort of maxed it out at like 30 feet because it was going to get expensive beyond that with like running electricity and stuff. But it is a separate building.
Right.
And should we walk into it?
Yeah.
In the winter, this is like treacherous and covered with
Well,
snow.
I want to say something about your studio. It was a converted garage in LA, but it was really pristine and it seemed to create a really good work environment for you. And you had a lot of cacti around, so it was a little southwestern.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
LA, depending on how you see it. But yeah, we had this sort of cactus garden. And you can see here, we're sort of, sorry. Everything is brand new. We've been here for a year, but stuff is starting to come in. I'm really excited. I was away in the Arctic for 2.5 weeks and I came back and like grass had filled in and these like places I didn't ever think anything was ever going to grow because the wind out here is so ferocious. Like we tried to replenish it with natural grasses and just like everything blew away. So that was sort of a disaster. But I guess, nature wins. Like, look, it all kind of came in.
And these trees
So,
are just new, so they'll get really much bigger, probably.
Yeah, these are blue cypress, so they'll get tall and skinny and hopefully make it not just look like, a dirt patch kind of. But we have some mountain mahogany,
Amazing.
and as you can see, this is sort of the north view. So yeah, there's not a lot around us, by design. That was sort of the goal.
Let's go
So
inside.
let's go
Hi,
inside.
we have a few Costa Rican friends and
Oh,
LA.
cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Okay, so here's the like I keep forgetting to lock the studio at night, and it's just like totally doesn't even matter, which is kind of amazing.
So
Okay, so
as we enter, I just want to tell people that you got your you studied cinema film, got your MFA in traditional film. We're using a 8x10 camera, doing very serious landscape work. I would call it landscape or social documentary. Maybe I call it something else. But one of the things I have always admired about Alia and why we've worked together is immediately after graduating with her MFA, she started breaking the rules of what it is to make a photograph, what photography is. She's constantly questioning the medium. And she's done things like print on semi-fugitive materials. And now she's actually using erasure in the prints. So she also does film and video, and I think this is a really good experience and tour for someone who is in the photography field but likes to push boundaries a little bit.
thank you for that intro. I love it. And I love how you described the idea of printing on fugitive materials. I think that's a really great way of putting it. Oh, I got a feisty. So this cat I found on the freeway when she was 5 weeks old, and she is feisty. You yucky, get down. Um, yeah, do you remember? So Hannah and I, for people that don't know, did a show together in 2016. Was that correct?
Yep.
And some of the work was printed on newsprint, and we got like hate mail
Yeah.
from somebody, which kind of like warmed my heart in a weird way, because I think we both sort of agreed that we were like, oh, we're doing something right if, people are upset about this. But I think what happened is that, Instagram happened, and 80% of the world has probably more than that at this point, has like a great camera in their pocket at all times. And so our relationship to photography, again, completely changed and was sort of renovated in a way. And I just felt like the era of me doing big, beautiful landscape work with these perfect, beautiful prints, like that ship had sailed. So I think I just like shoved some newsprint in my printer one time, and it worked. It worked honestly until the minute it didn't work. The printer broke, and it cost me like $2,000 to fix it. So that, sucked. But and I ended up giving away that roll of newsprint because I was like, I think we're done with this. Also, I didn't want it to become like a thing.
Well, one
I
you also do that some young artists are a little trepidatious about is that you experiment and you don't like pick one lane, one type of print and do it for 20 years. You are open to, I mean, taking risks basically is a good way of saying it.
I mean, I have to. I was going to say, I think you have to, but I don't know. Maybe not everybody does, but I certainly do. I would get bored making the same thing over and over again. I also think it pigeonholes you a little bit, in terms of you become known as that person, and I kind of hope that, as I explore moving forward this erasure work, that evolves. It seems to be, it probably always will be, but I don't want to just be doing erasure. Like, that is sort of where I'm at with it now. I find that the marks have already started evolving in the last year or two. And as a little bit of background, I kind of stumbled onto the erasure anyway. Like, that was not like a preconceived idea. That just like happened out of struggling for like a year trying to figure out. Honestly, I was trying to attach neon to my work, which in retrospect was like
Well,
kind of a bad idea. but
just so people aren't confused when we're talking about erasure, let's get in.
Let me show.
We look, but let's take a quick spin around the studio.
Yeah.
Just get oriented and like what your workflow is like, if you have stations.
I love that idea of stations. I kind of do. So this is a view. So I modeled the studio on, I saw some pictures of both Agnes Martin's studios and then, of course, George O'Keeffe studio with like the big black door. But Agnes Martin, when she was in Galisteo, I believe, had this like sort of compact studio. This is before she was up in the Taos area, but with these windows like this. And so this is sort of like the off-the-shelf version of that.
Beautiful.
Um, I just have to add also that so my neighbors thought we were building a chicken coop during construction. So of course that turned into when I talked to my husband, I'm like, yeah, I'm going out to the chicken coop. Okay, so
The May.
here is my sort of printer computer area. There's the ubiquitous cat tree that she refuses to sleep in. And then this sort of epic view that honestly I have to keep these shut most of the time just because there's too much light.
That's amazing.
And then
I remember your old studio, you had a similar setup with your electronics and your computer, but it definitely did not have a window with that kind of view.
it had a window of the garden, which I had to keep closed most of the time. And I do have to keep this closed most of the time too. So, of course, there's never enough room, but storage is essential. Some flat files. And then so I work in Scent as well, which we can talk a little bit about.
Love to.
But this is my Scent lab. Everything is stored up in here because if you don't, it smells like the sound of an orchestra tuning up, which
Okay.
is just like, so there are a lot of materials and it's basically a lab that has to be contained. I see, I see all these perfumers and their labs with all this like open scent materials in the background, and it's like, it's beautiful, but it's just like, I don't know how you can work like that, but everybody
Just
works in a
clear
different.
on that. Can you go over to the materials one more time? I just want
Yeah.
people to know when you say you're working with scent, you're not making perfume, you're not an aromatherapist, you're actually studying and using the chemistry of scent and the science of scent to as an art form. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think of it as sort of adding a dimensionality to the visual work. So scent is something that I'd wanted to work with for a while. I didn't have any technical skills. I barely have any technical skills now. And then during the pandemic, I connected with the Institute for Art and Olfaction in Los Angeles, who is, they are amazing, and they're committed to open source education around scent practice, and I would say sort of extended experimental scent practice as well,
Okay.
in terms of sort of scent in the expanded field, like what else it can do besides be something you put on your skin and walk around with. So they're doing amazing work. But during the pandemic, all their classes went online, which was fabulous. And so I started taking pretty much every class that they offered, including both technical classes, and then they have an amazing scent and culture series of classes as well, because it's there's such a long history and sort of ignored legacy of scent as a medium throughout cultures for thousands of
Yeah.
years. And so I sort of dug deep into that, and then I realized the day that I bought the expensive scale, I was like, oh, I actually have like now have the RV and I'm towing the car behind it on my road trip.
You're
I
in it.
was in it, yeah. So, I mean, I could show you like going back to here, it's like,
Show us some of the materials, maybe touch
I mean,
some of
it's like all lab equipment. Like I probably have enough like ethyl alcohol to like blow up, most of like El Dorado. So,
what are
yeah, it's just like,
Alia, what are some of the scents there? Like maybe two or three specific things that might be curious to people.
sure. So right now I'm working on a project for Jen Tuff Gallery, who is a very old friend of mine based here in Santa Fe. Okay, just for the record, this is not ideal.
Okay,
Don't want like a cat in your lab area,
that's
but she is a cat. So I've been working on, I started this before I left for the Arctic and sort of left it all out, sort of as tidy as possible. But it is a scent for her gallery, sort of based on notes of New Mexico.
okay.
So it's not only the trees or the plants like that you would think of, such as sage and pinon, and juniper, but I'm also trying to capture the idea of like light and space in it. So I'm just working on some basic accords as building blocks for that. I would love to have a few of those accords sort of dialed in so that I can use them on other projects. Sorry, my eyes are like super watery today.
I'd love.
There's always something blowing in the wind here, by the way.
Will you, when you say you're making a scent for her gallery, is it to create an atmosphere in her environment, or is it for a specific show? Because I know that you've actually done an exhibition of sorts of your scents before.
Yeah, totally. No, to clarify, I should have clarified that. So I think of scent both, as I said, as sort of adding dimension to my own visual work. So I feel like moving forward, every visual project and gallery installation will have a scent attached to it somehow
Love it.
as an ambient environmental scent. Think of it as like music in a film. So it's not going to overwhelm the visual work, but it is going to contribute maybe a different understanding or experience of that visual work.
Okay.
But I also love doing one-off, like sort of bespoke projects for people or artist friends or, you know, galleries or spaces. It's just super fun. Like it's never going to be like Alia Malley's candle business. Like that is not in the cards. People are like, this smells amazing. You should totally market this. I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in that. But what I am interested in is working with, like one-on-one projects, both you know, for friends and artists and galleries or institutions or anybody really that wants to add some sort of a dimensionality to their environmental space, but of course also my projects as well.
I
So
so interesting because it's a neglected medium or idea, and
absolutely.
I noticed an artist named Johanna who lives in Santa Teresa in Costa Rica joined, and
Hi.
she's an incredible designer, artist, and also a healer. And
Wow.
watches this video and sees the section about Alia's scent projects. Hi, Johanna. We can look at some of your workspace now, or maybe show us your ribbon area, and then
Oh
we'll
my
go.
gosh. Yeah, so that's a whole thing. So let me close up the scent because it is like overwhelming.
Hola,
Um,
Victor.
Hola, bienvenidos. Gracias por venir. Um, okay, so okay, so horses are a big part of my life, and after grad school, I really like fell back into it pretty hard. And uh, there are a bunch that are still in like garbage bags that have not been unpacked, but there are a few ribbons there. So I mean, this is sort of the perfect picture of like coexistence. There's like horse stuff. There's a bag of camera gear that hasn't been unpacked from the Arctic. Obviously, super high tech in the tote bag from the grocery store and the Arctic. And then here's an example of one of the larger erasure pieces just for everybody to see. So this is a finished framed piece that was in the exhibition. Sorry, it's also the gem. I think everybody's studio is also the gem. It was in this Touch the Sun exhibition at Marshall Gallery last year, which was really great to be a part of. So what I do is I take these photos and then it's so fun to be able to point this out to you. So I take the photos and then I print the photos
Mhm.
and then I physically erase them. So these are literal like erasure marks. Obviously, I'm not super precious about it. You can see here's another piece.
Oh yeah, can you give us a kind of a long distance view so we can just hold it in the frame for a second and
Yeah.
take it in?
So this is a piece from last year, but I wanted everybody to see sort of what the larger pieces look like because we're going to talk probably about some of the newer, smaller work and smaller pieces. And it's just sort of a different way of working. Like this is 40 by 60 inches. So it's sort of my body size in a weird way. So I work on the wall with these larger pieces or for this piece as well. And, you know, there's sort of marks of my body moving. I don't want to say performative, but I don't know why I cringe away from that because I'm a behind the camera person, not an in front of the camera person by nature.
Okay.
And I feel like the world is maybe split into two divisions on that. But they are marks of like my physical action and my body. I framed them at least for this series, in these sort of like milled aluminum. I wanted them to be sort of like blade-like, to sort of be a nod towards the idea of like aerospace, sort of, I guess, machined technology was sort of what I was interested in.
And for people who can't see it completely accurately or clearly, can you describe what the background image is and where you took it?
Yeah. So the background images for this body of work were all aerial photographs that I made while flying over the American Southwest. So I tried to do, like, I would photograph flying over other locations as well, but they just never really felt right. And I'm not quite sure what that is, but that's the way it worked out.
Okay.
Um, and then I would sort of play with the color and make it sort of more of what I wanted it to be. So I had seen an exhibition of photographs of the Trinity tests and sort of the history of the bomb. This is actually before I moved to New Mexico. And I was really interested in these sort of like lurid yellows and reds and these sort of, that sort of a palette. So that's sort of where I landed with this body of work that was called All That Is Solid. And let's see, trying to, here's
Craig
a,
just said he lit some pinon
I
incense.
love that. That's wonderful.
Getting it.
That's amazing. You know, I would love to, incense is such an interesting form, an art form, and it's actually something that I want to be able to work more with. Going back to the sync quickly, let me just say for the record, it is unbelievably humbling to switch mediums and try to learn a new medium. Like, I am so fluent in photography and image making, and whether it's like moving image or still images, like that is my background. I know how to think about it, how to work with it, how to sort of execute with, you know, a degree of experimentation and accident sort of packed into it. But technically I know how to work with it. And since it's like, I am punk rock, I've got like 3 chords and the truth. Like, I will never be the fine French trained nose. The teachers that I've studied with are those people. Like, they've all studied in Grasse in the south of France and have this incredible technical capability. And I just don't. Like, I have 1,000 ideas and I'm just trying to figure out how to like play the instrument. So it's been really interesting to sort of have those 2 variables now integrated into my practice. But that was like a sidebar. So
I mean, but you're still doing it, and I've seen your notebooks where you keep your formulas, and they're really intensive.
I mean, I start out with ideas. It's sort of where I'm at. Like, I remember being in classes with people who were way more technically adept than I was. And I've met some amazing people through that as well. And, but they're like, oh, I just don't know what my next project is. I'm like, oh, dude, I've got like 40 ideas. I just don't know how to build them, you know? So it's a lot of trial and error. It's very humbling. It's very slow for me. Like, imagine if you're a photographer and you've never worked in a darkroom or you've never worked with Photoshop. Like, it's just excruciating and slow, and yeah, humbling is the way to do it. But I would love to be able to work with incense. I miss burning incense in the studio. I don't do that anymore because it's just, there's already too much scent in here and I just sort of need a clean palette,
Okay.
so to speak. So, but anyway,
Um,
what
oh,
what else would we, do you want to talk about process maybe a little bit, or?
we can go into the thin line if you'd like. Do you feel comfortable with
Yeah,
that, or
the thin places.
thin
Although I
places? Excuse
like a thin
no.
line, that's such a great thin blue line. I mean,
When with on the walls now,
mhm.
is that work that is part of the
Can I just
thin?
tell you? Wait, let's just interrupt. The cat just like reset the printer. So normally she's asleep at this point in the morning, but for whatever reason, she literally just like reset the printer. So that's terrible, but whatever.
What
Um,
is on the wall over there by the printer? I'm curious to take a look at what you have.
sure. So this is sort of I don't want to say, like, sort of things I've been thinking about. This is probably next steps. The horses will be integrated into my work at some point. I just sort of keep them here to sort of be in close proximity to like front of mind. I don't know how the horses are going to be integrated into it. They will at some point. but I just had to do that in a way that like doesn't suck is sort of where I'm at with it. So
So kind of like a wall of references or inspirations or
yeah,
direction.
there's some, you know, Helen Frankenthaler, there's some NASA images of the first time, well, I can read it for you. In 2018, the Parker Solar Probe took a groundbreaking photograph at 16.9 million miles from the sun. And so that is like what that looked like. There's some historic astronomy. If anybody does not know the Harvard Plates Instagram account, it's incredible. It's all these like historic um, archival astronomical imagery. A lot of, I think it must be all on glass plates, and they highlight a lot of the women that were working, sort of unknown to everybody at the
Amazing.
time. It's a wonderful account. Here is a tornado from at least 100 years ago in stereo. I like that somebody was out there photographing that in stereo. And
Crazy.
so I think probably this all sort of feeds into the marks that I'm making.
Okay.
Um, so going back to maybe some of the other stuff on the wall. So what were you going to say?
Oh yeah, let's take a look at this and tell us what we're looking at.
So I have a book project with the musician Julia Holter for Nezreli Press's new imprint called Anatole. And Anatole is a project that Chris Pickler of Nezreli is doing where he's pairing artists and musicians, so visual artists working with the lyrics as text from selected musicians. So here's one I can show you. They're all going to be the same size.
And just
Um,
the pairing, or do you get to choose, or he's kind of curating the?
Yeah, he's kind of curating it.
Okay.
So they're all going to be this size. Here is Dean Wareham with, oh my God, what's his name?
Ed Templeton.
Ed Templeton, exactly. Thank you. So
BRB.
they're all going to be sort of this size. So, you
Great.
know,
Okay.
everything will be different, but they'll all be the same format, which I really love because that'll make it feel like a cohesive series.
Mm-hmm.
So for this project, I decided to work in a smaller format. So I sort of put the big pieces on hold and decided to work in a 10 by 14 format. I
Okay.
generally work, even when I'm working on the big pieces, I often make a like shit ton of laser prints, like 8 by 10 laser prints, just to sort of see what's working. Here's the detritus of that. Like it's like 100, you know, versions of what something could be or wants to be or doesn't want to be. And then once I get the color, I can't obviously work on color with laser prints, but I do make sort of edits and quick marks. And then I make a bunch of these 8 by 10 images to sort of dial in the color.
Okay.
And these are pigment prints. And then from that, I will end up with a stack of them, and sort of you can see the yellow tabs were sort of like the
Mm-hmm.
selects on what I thought might work as a book project. You know, it's funny, and I've heard Brian Eno, he's a huge hero of mine, and I've heard him say this before, but sometimes the most promising project turns out to be total garbage,
Mm-hmm.
and yet sometimes it's the thing that is least exciting at first that turns out to really work. So for example, I thought this image, these are just sort of test mark. It has to get bad before it gets good. I
Okay.
thought that maybe one of these images might be amazing, and I was like so excited over it, and like it didn't even make it into the cut.
Okay.
So
Back to that and look at it. I mean, if you.
yeah. So this is sort of, if you can see some of the mark making evolving here. So the marks are, I can show you. The marks are literally erasers,
Okay.
and then like marked like that.
Okay.
I started using solvent as well, like from the perfume solvents. So not the actual scent. I had actually had a really interesting studio visit with Douglas Marshall of Marshall Gallery, and he had made a suggestion about like maybe integrating some sort of solvent. I'm like, you know what, that's a really great idea. So, you know, for every like terrible idea that somebody gives you, there'll be like one amazing one. And so, Douglas, thank you so much. That was sort of a winner. Um, so what I've noticed is that with the erasure and the solvent, what you get is the pigment kind of becomes like almost a watercolor.
Okay.
Like it sort of becomes its own. You sort of release it from the paper. Every paper is different. I have two primarily that I work with, but
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes like an sort of an ink situation
So
or a pigment situation.
it's kind of pulling the ink across the paper.
Yeah, I mean, it literally just, I mean, you can see it literally just sort of removes the ink and sort of turns it into, well, ink, I guess, you know? So it just sort of makes the marks different. So I work with a version of this. I often cut erasers to get specific edges, like picking a different type of brush. This is all stuff that's sort of evolved as I've been working with the marks. Um, Sometimes things have to get a little unhinged before they get better. This was something that didn't work out at first, and I tried to keep working it, and then I promptly overworked it, and then it just became like a test image.
Okay.
I would say the hardest thing working with the erasures is that she's remarkably happy right now. Um, the hardest thing with working on these erasures is that it's a one-way street. Like you're working on it, and if you overwork it, you overwork it, and there's no going back. So, and then you just have to sort of throw it away or start again. I mean, whatever. You can't just paint over it. So, which is something that I kind of love, even though it's really difficult. I also integrated some of the horseshoes as tests up here, which are like rubbings,
Oh,
which actually adds like a mark of the indexical into the image, which was sort of bound to happen at a
okay.
certain point.
How do you
Um,
how do you do that?
so, stack of horseshoes, because God knows I have enough horseshoes in my life. And then I actually use these to keep prints down as well, which is probably not the best idea, but I do. I physically just like take a horseshoe and, I'll do this on the table
Okay.
and it just like goes behind it and then it's like a rubbing,
Oh, okay.
but you can get some sort of interesting marks from it. I don't know. I'll definitely be probably integrating that a little bit more to see if it works moving forward. Certainly with there's some eclipse images that will probably happen next up. And these seem like they might be right for working with the horseshoes. These are just
And
laser prints.
what eclipse is
So
that?
that
Is it multiple specific?
there are actually two eclipses.
Mhm.
They were the Ring of Fire annular eclipse last October. Um, Actually, I can show you these. It's kind of interesting. So I had COVID round one last October during the eclipse and had like not at all the quote unquote right equipment to work with. Like I
Okay.
had this one kind of like crappy kit lens. I didn't have like a proper lens for it. And so I ended up with these images where the eclipses were this big in the photos. And so, any kind of astronomical photographer would be like, that's awful. And, they were kind of useless. But I ran them through an AI program to enlarge them, which was my first sort of integration of that kind of technology.
Okay.
And they turned out kind of amazing. I mean, it's hard to see from the glare. Um, let's see whether I can get that to focus. I don't know how focused that is. But they got these weird like halos and sort of
Mhm.
weird marks on them. And all I could think about was like, what on earth does the AI think that is? Because I can't imagine that the AI is trained on like bad eclipse photography.
Right.
So that seemed like sort of an interesting thing to mess with. I think these will be fun. So, and then there was the other clips that was not total here, but it was like 80% or something in Santa Fe. So I have a few of those images as well. They're basically terrible eclipse photographs, but I think they're really, really interesting.
Um,
So
with the stuff to the left, which is, I believe, like work
work
prints,
print, yeah.
or the thin
Thin
places.
places, right. That's where we were. Sorry, I was like rambling.
With those, are those all taken in New Mexico? And are they all taken after you were introduced to the music of Julia Holter and sort of familiarized yourself with the music? How does something like that work when you're paired with someone, and or is it like you go back into your archive and see what resonates when you're listening to her music?
I mean, that's such a great question. So I was given a list of like 30 songs that she has written, and I've known Julia for a long time, so it was really wonderful to be actually paired with her.
That's good.
Um, yeah, it was great. And I love her music, and she's so smart and interesting. And so I got like a list of 30 songs, and I created a playlist out of them and just had it on repeat. And I printed out the lyrics, um, and just sort of used those as maybe a starting point or some sort of foundational exercise. And then I just would let, the music sort of waft through the studio
Okay.
while I was working on these. And then at a certain point, I got caught up in, by the way, this project is like a year overdue. So it's
Okay.
just, I got caught up in moving. and was playing other music in the studio as well. And it was really remarkable to finish the project just before I left for the Arctic a few weeks ago, and sent it off to her and to Chris Pickler, and they were both thrilled with it. But it was so great to actually come back to the lyrics, to the songs, and see really how much I had internalized the whole process.
Mm.
And it felt like it really fit. So it was something that was sort of, it was seeded, and then I sort of went my way and worked on it, and then came back to it and was super, super excited over it.
Good.
So these are images, going back to this, these are images, they were all taken again over the Southwest.
Okay.
And, and I don't know, I work really, really intuitively. I was working with like some polarization filters, that I found in my bag that I'd had left over from probably the 90s or art school or something. And then I just sort of went from those to, try the fish and chips. How has New Mexico changed your work? That is a great question, and I'm not quite sure yet. I think we'll have to see. I think so much of it is about being here in this environment with this light and space and quietness. I rarely see more than one stoplight a day, which is very different than living in West Los Angeles. I see the stoplight when I go to get my mail, so I don't even see it every day. My horses live about a mile down the road. I don't see any stoplights on the way to them. So I can just sort of show you some of these.
Yeah, but obviously, I mean, even when you were living in LA, you were doing images over the Southwest. So there was something compelling about that area geographically that was finding its way into your work before you even moved there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not quite sure what that's about. I think it's, I think it's, I think I moved up into the air because making work on land sort of became difficult for me for whatever reasons. And I actually had a curator ask me not that long ago whether I don't know if I've told you this, but she was like, so how did you make these photos from the plane? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I was in the plane and I looked down and I had my camera and I made images. And she's like, but did you rent the plane? And I'm like, oh, dude, that's such like a male photography trope. Like, no, I didn't rent the plane. I was like in fucking 12D or whatever by the window, and like put the window up and tried not to have like a wing underneath of me, and just made a lot of images.
And you made it work.
And I made it work. I think women as artists are maybe sort of hunter-gatherers a little bit. Like, we just sort of, I don't have kids, but I don't know how my friends with kids do make work. I think it's probably really, really difficult. But just to try to figure out how to make work wherever you are and whatever situation you're in. And I am not renting a plane. I kind of love that somebody did that though. Like, what a like baller
I know.
move to,
And
that was even an option for somebody to like rent a plane
I
to
know
take
it's
some aerial
but
photographs. Really?
I do.
My God. I mean, whatever. Anyway, so I don't have a great answer over why the Southwest. It was just sort of what felt right. Like I said, I've looked at other images from other places. I don't know whether it's the type of sky cloud patterns, sort of the perceived emptiness of the land, which of course is not empty below us, but from 30,000 feet, it sort of has that appearance. I don't know whether that goes back to the legacy of artists retreating to the desert, maybe from
I think it does.
30,000 feet. I'm not quite sure what that is.
Big sky,
Big
open
sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Well, let's look at the
possibility. Yeah. So these are all, like I said, for the book. So for publication. So I worked on the table as opposed to the wall for these, which is a very different experience. And I feel like maybe the marks sort of evolved with that as well. So most of them are on this white paper. The color pieces are all on this sort of my favorite paper. I only work with a couple of papers. I did put the black and white ones though on the silver paper, which was just sort of like an experiment, and the paper sort of works differently.
Oh, wow.
Um, but it's hard to see
Now,
photographed, but they're kind of amazing.
like a kind of like a misty quality to that one at the bottom. Is that part of the
This one,
actual print? Yeah.
uh, this
On
is, well, you can kind of see. So the erasure marks are kind of coming off
yeah.
into the margins. Just sort of at the base of the cloud. So just, is that what you sort of meant? I'm trying to let these marks free up a little bit. I'm not sure whether it's successful or not, but to your point of like evolution and moving on, like I don't want them to be all like super sort of prescribed and dialed in, because that's interesting for maybe this project, but I don't want them all
Beautiful.
to be like this. So, I was thinking a lot about, so the idea of the thin places comes from this, I think it's sort of a traditional, I think it has its roots in early Christian Celtic religion, as in a place that's physically in between heaven and earth,
Okay.
which sort of resonates with me for several reasons. I think less in a religious sort of experience and more of a, the sort of techno surveillance world that we live in. And I like the idea that these are marks of, we don't even really know what, but it's just like maybe they were there all along and we just couldn't see them
No.
before. So maybe it's just like another way of seeing.
Okay.
Um, I certainly am influenced by looking at like all sorts of like missiles and rockets and, early NASA photography and failure, rocket failures and whatever, but also upper atmospheric phenomena. But I really felt like these sort of took on a life of their own. I love the film Arrival, and I was thinking a lot about like, certainly with the marks from Arrival, like what is this other language, or what is this, what are these
Hmm.
marks? And I think it's really important to not know, the ambiguity is something that's imbued within my work sort of deliberately, because as soon as you know, like it's no longer that interesting. And I think that way sort of moving forward with photography as well. Like photography, and this is a bigger conversation, but photography right now for me, with the rollout of AI, it's no longer about perfection. Like it's got to be about something else. Like that conversation is dead,
Hmm.
and we just need to sort of move on from that. So, yeah, it was fun to do these sort of more elliptical moves. And I sort of make these tracer patterns in Photoshop, and then it sort of is like yeah, sort of like tracers. I mean, but I don't physically trace
Okay.
them, but it's more like a sort of a trial to sort of see how a mark could work. And then from that, they sort of, again, they take on a life of their own once you're actually physically erasing.
It
So,
reminds me of color film when it accidentally gets folded and then unfolded. Like,
oh, I love that. Yeah.
it gets those kind of creases, and then there are like maybe white flares in the broken emulsion around it.
I mean, broken is where I'm at. Like anything about broken photography or photography breaking is super interesting. Um, what was my first erasure? Oh, I can totally show you that. It's down here. Okay, so
Thank you for asking.
yeah, thank you for asking. So it's hard to see, but there is a little thumbnail of it. I try to keep everything pretty organized. That's the photographer in me. But it was this 40 by 60 print that was actually kind of a crappy print. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to set to it. And so that's sort of what started happening. I can tell you in sort of the more,
And
um,
that, Alia,
yeah,
when was that?
that was probably 2019.
Okay.
I'm looking for a date on it. Oh, it says, it doesn't say. It should say, it should have the date and the title on it, but of course it doesn't. So the short version is I had been trying to like figure out how to attach neon to a photograph, which is whatever. And obviously that did not work. I love the idea of neon though, just in general, like this containment of power. And I'm really interested in also the technical nature of neon. I mean, I don't have neon in here, but and I'm not like a neon fan of any kind, but I just like the idea that it's plasma, so it's gas heated and then it starts to glow. And that is exactly what the aurora are as well. They're like these sort of ionized gases in the upper atmosphere. And I was looking at a lot of aurora, upper atmospheric, weird lightning sort of stuff. The red elves, the blue sprites, like all this, is that blue jets? Blue jets, like I don't even know the technical terms, it's so bad. But all this weird upper atmospheric phenomena that's some of which we know exists that we don't even know how to photograph, and we're just starting to be able to photograph it,
Okay.
but we know it's there. Like that's super interesting. And so I'd been marking on some of the prints, like I was making these like sort of grease pencil lines. That's not a good one to show you, but I was making these grease pencil lines, sort of figuring out where maybe neon could go, and was really unhappy with it. I'm like, I wonder if I could just rub off the grease pencil. And I rubbed it off and I got this like insane mark. And I was like, well, that is exactly everything I've been looking for without knowing I've been looking for it for, like 6 months or a year or whatever it had been.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
that's sort of like, that's how the erasure
And we're
happened. It was like, as soon
like,
as I saw it, I knew. I was like, this is,
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Were you thinking like of creating shapes like that in neon and then applying it on top of the photograph, sort of as a sculptor?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were going to be sort of hanging off, like the painter. Oh my God, I love her work so much. Mary Weatherford. I love her work so much. And actually, what happened was also I was in Denver and I saw a piece of hers installed there, and I was familiar with her work but hadn't seen it in a while. And I saw it and I was like, oh, this is like everything I've been wanting to do. And she does it really, really well with her paintings. I love her work so much. And so that was also sort of like, I was like, she's doing this, she's doing it great, she's been doing it, she'll continue to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's not for me. So but yeah, they were just going to be these hand hewn sort of straight imperfect neon tubes hanging off somehow, basically just like Mary Weatherford. It was. And I have a friend, we have a really good friend in New York who owns Let There Be Neon, which has a fabulous account as well, Instagram account. And I spent some time in the studio with him and his workers learning about neon process and like the 6 different types of white, and the different cobalt versus whatever. And that was fascinating too. So anyway, yeah, that did not work, but it was a great experience. And you have to go through this stuff to land where you're going to land. So
We may get cut off at 11
okay.
or in 7 minutes. So if we do, I'll just log back on so we can wrap up together,
Okay.
and I hope people will join us. But I'd love to continue looking at this work,
Yeah.
knowing when it might come out.
Next year, I do not have an actual date set. I can show you actually what I ended up doing too. Oh, we can talk about the little cameras maybe. So I had like the stack of lyrics, and then I had, I sort of printed out little thumbnails of every piece.
Okay.
And I think I will be working with Chris Pickler and Julia on this, like sort of figuring out like running order and how they all go together.
For those of you who don't know, Nisraeli Press is one of the best imprints for photography books. Everything about their publications is beautifully done. So Alia did one other project with them. And I'm really excited about this one. I didn't know about this series.
Yeah, it's going to be really, I mean, it's super great. They've released a few titles, but I'm super honored to be working with Chris again. Here's the book that I did with him before. It was a 1-picture book, Captains of the Dead Sea, and it had sort of like, I love this little format, but this is the project that Hannah and I worked on together for the gallery. So these are some of the pieces that were in newsprint. I think, I'm not sure if this book is still available. I think there are probably a few copies left on the Nisraeli site. But then it came with, I'm really proud of this book. It's little and it's beautiful. And like everything Israeli does, it was such a joy to work with Chris as well. Like we just totally saw eye to eye, and he and I the process, it made up for every other terrible creative process you've ever had
Oh,
with
good.
anybody. Like it was just so smooth. And then it came with a little print.
Amazing. That's a great compliment.
Yeah. So it was, oh, that's supposed to go in
What were
there. So
two prints right above that book on the work table? They're both bluish. Are
those two.
those, is that a dip? Yeah, is that like a diptych or
Yeah,
what's
I
happening?
think so. Yeah, it was sort of like a before and after. And it was sort of, I mean, maybe that's like the film student in me still. You know, my background was as an undergrad studying film at USC in the critical studies program, which means I think way too much about everything, pretty much. But I like the idea of sort of maybe a little bit of time-based, you know, before and after, sequential, sort of, you know, you can look a lot at the still photographs of any kind of technological rocket explosion bomb innovation, and there's always sort of a sequence. You know, I certainly spent a lot of time looking at, so I'm Gen X, and the Challenger explosion was a huge touchstone in my childhood. Um, and I've spent a lot of time looking at like sequences of that as well, because it was this like promise of technology that pretty much let us down, you
Yeah,
know, and we
for me,
all watched it
yeah.
live on TV as kids, which was terrible.
Thank you for mentioning that because I don't know if everyone watching will know, but you and I were kids when the Challenger shuttle exploded on TV,
Mhm.
and most of us were in elementary school watching
Yeah.
because one of the astronauts was an American teacher, and the whole
Mhm.
country was excited about this moment of, you know, a regular person and an educator getting an opportunity to go into space and know what it was like, and we were all children as a country watching when it exploded in the sky, and there really wasn't a lot of like therapeutic response. We saw it, it kind of went away, but it stuck in my mind as kind of a pivotal moment in history in my childhood.
Yeah, and I think it was really formative for us. Like our parents watched the moon landings, and that was like all of humanity high-fiving itself, you know, for this incredible feat. And technology was going to save us and be the promise of the future and fix all of our problems and space travel and, you know, Mars colonies and whatever. And then we got the inverse of that. We got you know, this giant sort of letdown and actual like tragedy and lives lost. And it was supposed to be sort of this moment of, yeah, to your point, inspiration and regular people, like the teacher in space, and it was supposed to be incredible, and it turned out to just be unfathomable, you know. And also to your point, like nobody, I mean, we all still think
Mm-hmm.
about it, you know. So I think that's sort of an inverse. I think it was probably also the end of when space travel and, you know, I think it was maybe the beginning of the end in terms of technology and our hope for the future with it. You know, it used to be so aspirational, and I find that really, really interesting as well. And I think a lot about, we haven't really talked about the integration of technology, but that's something I think a lot about in my work. I'd say it's somewhere between the, you know, the human, the machine, and the natural is sort of the triangulation of how I'd situate my work on some level. So it's certainly, erasing is like sticking my hand back into this mechanical digital process. It's something I think a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sort of uh, making the imperfect perfect or vice versa. But leaving my mark on the image and an otherwise like machine created spectacle or, you know, creation. So,
Amazing.
um,
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 like to show us the camera you took to the Arctic, and we'll talk about that experience quickly, and then we'll wrap up unless people have questions.
yes, this is actually a really great segue because thinking about technology, and as I mentioned a minute ago, like the idea of AI and the limitations of that and how that will transform yet again our relationship to image making and image culture, which is swarming all around us at any point. I'm convinced also that this is why there's very little photography in contemporary art right now. Like it's all painting
Yeah.
because it's really fucking hard to make like an interesting image.
Hello
Hi,
again. Speaking of
we got cut off. I was like,
technology,
what's that?
speaking of technology
Speaking of technology, oh my gosh, it's so
and the
true. It's
limitations
so,
of,
and the
hi everyone.
limitations of apparently Instagram, 1 hour. But this is actually such a great, like I said, segue into sort of the way that I've been thinking about photography now. So as I said a minute ago, like I was working, certainly, playing with the idea of integrating a little bit of AI, but I think my current response to it is actually like less information. Like I need less information. I think we
Okay.
all need less information. And
Mhm.
so I've, as you pointed out, I started out shooting 8x10 landscape work. I'm going to take these cameras over to some better light. And here, I can put this on the tripod too, so no one's dizzy.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone coming back and
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's so fun to like talk about all this. So I went from an 8x10 to a Minox.
oh my God.
So I actually don't, I mean, it's like, it's kind of the perfect Cold War camera,
Is that the whole camera?
yeah, that's the whole camera.
Okay.
So it fits here. The film is, that's the
Amazing.
film. It's basically 8mm.
Okay. I have
Um,
not one of these. I thought I had, but
this is the film. This is the film from the first camera that I bought that completely did not work, but um, you can see how like tiny it is. So, I mean, there's like one image, like it's tiny.
okay.
And I can show you quickly. Here's just a test image, the one image that I got off those 2 rolls of film. So this is obviously just of the studio, but it's incredibly grainy and sort of evocative of something else. And I'm not quite sure where this is going. This is the first image that I've made. And then I just sort of erased it. The erasure looks like a horse, which was not
Can
intentional
you
at all.
point to what is actually the frame of the image on that
Well,
sheet?
I mean,
Is it
the black,
oh
the black,
it's the whole
the
thing. Okay.
whole thing.
Okay.
So this is just literally a test image looking out those
Uh,
windows.
uh,
Um, so it, I don't know, it's incredibly grainy. Like, it's just like, it's sort of playing with this idea maybe of evidence. Like, I'm really interested in the idea of evidence. And if you see something like the Loch Ness Monster
mhm.
photo, like they're so grainy. And I think we had this relationship to images where it's like, oh, the more imperfect it is, the more veracity it holds, or like the realer it is. Like
Mhm.
it's it's like proof. And of course we know that photography proves nothing anymore.
It's
So
it's like when it's kind of like with studio photography with well done lighting. It seems and where someone takes their time setting something up, it seems more fake. Uh,
mhm.
just because more effort was put in or there's more clarity or more depth or something, but that's really kind of an illusion. It's
Yeah,
all fake.
it's all fake. And by the way, people have been faking photographs for 150 years. Like as soon as people figured out how to like create and keep an image and fix an image on, a piece of whatever it was they were using back then, paper or whatever, people have been faking imagery. So, and now, that's something also I think about in terms of the role of photography and our relationship to it and how that's evolving. And again, this comes back to this idea where we're at right now with AI and like photography is going to, at least the way I think about photography and using it and working with it, is going to have to turn into something else. Like, because again, everybody has like a perfect camera in their pocket at this point, or 80%, was the statistic I read, and that was a few years ago, so I'm sure it's higher.
I'm sure it is.
We have
Craig, you said the erasure is not about performance, but most of the erasures seem to be a reflection of the sweep of the arm, like they said about Franz Klein and everyone else. It's evidence of an action made by hand, arm. That's a great point. Thank you.
it is a great point, and I probably do just need to like cop to that. Like it probably, I mean, it is a mark of I don't know if I'm performing though, but yeah, it is a mark of an action, perhaps, or a gesture. And this, veers into this world that, I am not versed as a painter or perhaps, or mark making. Like that's so sort of, not antagonistic, but at least antithetical to working with photography, or at least in the traditional sense of taking a photo and not having your hand in it. But yes, that is the territory I'm venturing into. I'm going to own it. So I don't know why I have such like an aversion to the idea of performance or play. Like somebody was like, oh, there's a sense of play in your work. I'm like, no, 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 no. But maybe there is experimentation for sure, and allowing it to go where it's going to go, I think, is something that I just have to. It's a very different way of being a photographer,
It is.
and I bristle at that term, and yet at the same time, my work is so entrenched in with a deep, deep love for photography, for the history of photography, for the way images circulate in our lives and in our world, and so yeah, I mean it's all in there.
I think
So
there's something to, it's not necessarily performative, but in a way that painters went off the easel and started applying a bigger action, using more of their body to the canvas. You're the first person I'm aware of doing that with your prints, because typically, traditionally, photographic prints, once they're done, are untouchable and pristine and presented as a finished object. And certainly they've been manipulated and put on other objects before, but you're physically kind of engaging with them in just a very different way, especially with the large pieces.
yeah,
It's
no, I think that's right. I think you're totally right about that. Also, like I've had some curatorial pushback on
sure.
like not having glazing in front of the pieces. I'm like, but you wouldn't glaze a painting. You wouldn't put glass in front of a painting unless it was like an old master or something. So we just have to think of it like that. But the day before we were installing the show at Marshall Gallery last year, it was like I found wet puppy nose marks at the lower part of that large piece, and I was like, okay, so I need to figure out how to get like puppy nose marks off of this piece now, which is not usually a problem with photography. I wouldn't be adverse to putting some sort of glass in front of it in some sort of situation. If somebody certainly is hanging a piece in their home or something. I also love, and we haven't talked about this, and I know we're probably trying to wrap it up, but the unique aspect of my pieces is really, really important. Like I was way done with editioning,
Right.
even when you and I were working together, because there's just too much photography. Like there's just too much. And so making unique pieces that go out into the world is pretty core and essential to the way I'm working now. Like I want them to go out and live their lives in other places. And no, I don't want them to be scratched up, but I've already scratched them the way that I want them to be scratched. It's sort of, again, this like idea of the right way of sort of creating this intervention on them. But maybe they carry the marks of their world, of their travels. I don't know. I just wanted to point out also, I took this camera to the Arctic, which is like a 90s Contax 35 that a friend of mine pulled out of a drawer and gave me like last year. And so I took that and I shot some film, like motion picture film that has been cut down into 35 canisters for stills, because I thought that might be interesting to sort of bring some of that to it. I did find out, like I was looking up this camera because I didn't know how, that had a couple of questions about it. And I think it was one of like Kendall Jenner or somebody now like bought one of these, and now they're really expensive. And it's like, because like the influencer owns it. And I mean, I couldn't make that up. They're like, $1,000 now. It's just like, whatever. But there were things like, I was, in the Arctic taking some images, and I got to like number 45 or 50 sort of. And I'm like, on the roll of film, which is 36. And I'm like, okay, so that's wrong. Like something is not right. And of course I opened it up and like the film hadn't loaded. So, there's just, that's photography. That's just the nature of it. And I will, am excited to see what I get. As I mentioned to you yesterday, maybe like they won't be pretty pictures of icebergs. I mean, they're I'm sure there's some of that in there, but it needs to be something bigger and broader.
And in terms of, you've been to the Arctic twice, both for a residency. The initial one was a residency, and the second one was kind of like a reunion of sorts.
Yeah, wait, I just have to point out the Kills, Jamie and Allison made that Contax camera stupid hip. Okay, I love the Kills so much. I didn't even know that.
Thank you.
So that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, whatever, you know, these cameras break now and there's no way to fix them. So I don't know why. I don't, it's just a thing. Materiality is a thing. People love materiality now. So yes, I went to the Arctic in 2013 as part of the Arctic Circle residency. There were 28 of us on a 3-masted tall ship that looked like something out of Shackleton's, like endurance Antarctic adventures. And I was really interested in sort of playing with the idea of that. Again, the history of photography sort of melded into the work. That was 11 years ago. I basically got off the trip, went to see my sister in Stockholm, and she was like, oh, you need to see this thing, Instagram. And
oh my God.
So all this big, beautiful landscape work that I had photographed with this boat, I realized was going to have to change. And so I kind of shelved all of that work, did the Captains of the Dead Sea project with you, and then had a bunch of video footage that I had made, and it turned into a 3-channel video piece, which I ended up going back in the fall of 2019 to Northwest Iceland to finish it. I felt like I wanted to go back to this environment in order to finish making this piece that I'd started in sort of an Arctic environment.
Okay.
And so that was October 2019. And then, of course, the world stopped. So it's this, The Logic of Events is the name of the project. It's about 12 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, this 3-channel video piece. I would love to find a home for that. Tashi Wada, who is Julie Holter's partner, and is an amazing musician, did the soundtrack to it. And again, it's sort of about this, the human, the technological, the environmental, all slamming into each other, and sort of the relationship and power struggle between maybe those three.
Oh,
but
I hope I find a place to show that.
I would love to show it, and I would love to have, you know, Tashi do a live performance as part of the evening or something, like an evening with. I think it'd be amazing, and I'm really, really proud of that work. It was the timing, you know. So anyway, that was that trip. This trip, I had an opportunity to go back. This time it was on an icebreaker. It was sort of an alumni expedition was how it was pitched, also through the Arctic Circle. We were gonna circumnavigate Spitsbergen and Svalbard, which is at about 80 degrees north. And in fact, we did do that. And then we went up to the pack ice, which was rough oceans. To be in the open Arctic Ocean overnight was a thing.
Okay.
I'm still trying to unpack the residency and the trip. The whole trip was kind of unhinged. For me, it was not the experience that I sort of anticipated, which is, you know, exciting on some level. I'm not convinced we actually need to be up there as artists. Like, I just don't think that is the way forward. I don't think any work we're going to be up there making at this point is going to help the environment. I think it's got to be, for me, I think I'm landing more in the space of thinking sort of more expansively about the role of art and ecology, the role of my practice, how I see my work moving forward. Obviously, I'm very sort of steeped in landscape and the history of work made about the landscape and the environment. But I just, I'm not sure. There were a lot of projects, there were 97 artists making work. And it was just, I'm not quite the walrus don't want us there. The polar bears don't want us there. And it felt a little kind of last chance tourism for me. So I was not expecting that. But it's really made me sort of question how we make art about the environment, what the role of art is, how we move forward with that, like how we can help. And I'm not sure taking 100 artists on a boat to the Arctic is really the way or the best way forward. But, you know, we'll see.
It's a really important point because, that's a lot of artists.
There's a lot of people with, a lot of people had very sort of predetermined projects, which I find interesting because that's not the way I work at all. But, you know, like one day we ran into these walruses, and there were a pack of them on the beach, and about 100 meters from this beach where they all were was literally a walrus slaughter ground from 100 years ago, or probably, I don't know, Industrial Revolution style, where the walrus were slaughtered for their skins for conveyor belts.
Okay.
So I just felt like, I mean, literally it was like bones and then the creatures, and then there were 100 artists here, and they were so upset that we were there. And I was like, haven't these creatures like been through enough? Like, what are we doing here? And I felt like we just had to leave. And I sort of like,
maybe that's something that will come across when you develop the film.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously this is all, I think it's really made me reconsider, as I mentioned before, sort of my role as an artist in all this, how maybe we should recalibrate the way we think about making art in the face of ecological climate crisis. And, like pictures of polar bears is sort of not where is that, again, that train has left the station, I think. So like, what can we do with our work that's actually going to maybe sort of create new ways of thinking about this? So
it's a good question. I want to wrap up and let everyone know that Alia has really interesting taste in music, and she has been kind enough to send me a playlist of some of the songs and albums that she's been listening to while she's been working on her recent project. And I've been listening to it as the lead up to this talk, and it's been really interesting. I don't get exposed to a lot of new music. It's just really, there's a lot of emotion in it, and it's very calming and interesting. Oh, someone said the best taste in music for sure. Okay, I'm not bragging. But it's true.
You have a Polaroid fetish. My friend Siri Carr, who was on the trip with me, shot a lot of Polaroid, and she and I talked a lot about this. Like maybe my Minox work and her Polaroid usage were sort of coming at the same issue, but from different sides. Our work is very, very different, but we think a lot about photography together. She's a great artist and friend. I also just wanted to say one note on the music. So the Red Dead Redemption soundtrack, like, I do not play video games. I know nothing about video games. Somehow the algorithm decided that I might like that because it had a bunch of Daniel Lanois on it. And true to form, I did love it. And I had like this video game soundtrack like on repeat in my studio, which is so kind of crazy. So
actually really intriguing. I loved it.
Like how Willie Nelson ended up and Rihanna Gibbons ended up on this like video game soundtrack. I'm sure it was like a huge, wonderful payday and creative playground for them, which is so great. Like, do it. Do it. So
yeah, so it's interesting also how music plays into your work, and we will be sharing her playlist with all of you on Instagram. So thank you for all of Alia's friends who showed up, and thank you for all of my friends in Costa Rica who showed up. We appreciate you being here and listening today, and we hope you enjoyed us reconnecting.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, Alia. Enjoy, I'm going to let you go, but enjoy the beautiful New Mexico sky today, and please stay in touch.
Thank you. Gracias a todos.
Gracias.
Bye-bye.